So we saw a couple guys skating. Are there any updates on Murray, Weissbach, Cedarcrest?
Murray is non-contact right now, but trending in a good direction. Potential to maybe play on the weekend. Won't play Wednesday. Weissbach is cleared, so he should be available Wednesday. Cedarquist is in kind of a return to play right now. We'll just kind of see how the week goes. Potentially available on the weekend. Just see how the week goes.
You're coming into this week off a win, a pretty wild one, right? Especially that third period on Saturday in Cleveland. How do you kind of look at that one?
I thought we were really good the whole weekend. The Thursday game was just an excellent hockey game. Felt like an NHL playoff game. There was no space out there. It was really hard to create for either team. It was just the pace was extremely high. Quality of play was high. And we just came out on the wrong side. We couldn't finish off some of the plays we created. And then Saturday, I really liked us for 40 minutes, and then I didn't like us for 10, and then I really liked us again for the last 10. So I thought for 50 of the 60, we were really good on Saturday. I think I give our guys a lot of credit. Like sometimes, we showed a lot of video of things we left on the table offensively that we created and then didn't execute on. And we worked on it on practice on Friday, and it's hard to be able to just then turn one day of practice work into game situation against a really good opponent. And our guys did that, and it's a real credit to the group, especially Mercy and on down, and how hard they practice and how well they come into practice.
Roseanne had 4 points, but even aside from the points, the game situations you're putting him in, and that's a testament to the work he's put in this year, right? He's been pretty good for you guys.
Well, the work he's put in the last 14 months. It's not just this year. I mean, the media always would ask me about Kulik, and Kulik is playing excellent right now. Last year, there was a lot of, and I'd always remind the media of Roseanne. Because Rosie's game is more subtle. Kulik's is more powerful and explosive and in your face. But Isak is just a fabulous hockey player. His growth of his overall game, I couldn't fathom putting him on the ice in an empty net situation 13 months ago, and or on the penalty kill. And so now he's earning through the body of work he's put in and the habits and how he practices and the detail. They're not just leading us in points, those two guys. They're driving our identity, and that is huge. They're driving competitiveness. They're driving habits, how many puck battles they're winning, how much physically committed they are. And it's fabulous to see the development of their overall game for both those guys.
On Saturday, Stillman got the game winner late in that third period. Is it nice to see a guy like that get more on the stat sheet for all the things he does right that don't show up?
Yeah, that was his best weekend with us. And it's hard. It's people sometimes you think guys coming from the NHL and he's just going to come and kill it. The American League's hard. Second best league in the world. A lot of good players. It's a little more chaotic than the NHL. And every player in this league will cut your arm off to either fight to get out of this league or fight to stay in this league, right? And it's competitive every night. And when you're a guy in Stiller's spot, 6, 7, 8 defenseman in the NHL the last 3 years, a lot of times it's about survival, and you're playing your 12, 13 minutes, and all you're doing with the puck is punting it out in the neutral zone. And then the coach tells you did a great job because you didn't turn a puck over and you defended hard for 12 or 13 minutes. Now we're trying to grow his game. Let's break the puck out. Let's solve pressure. Let's add offense, and that takes time to get all those things. He has all those things in him as a player. But when you haven't been working on him for 2 or 3 years, it takes time to come back. And what I loved about that goal is we wanted ozone movement against them. We needed to get our D involved in the offensive zone, and he started that goal off because he was at the front of the net screening the goaltender as a defenseman. And then the puck came off of him on the shot, and then he was able to finish the rebound.
So you end up getting that split in Cleveland, 2 points against the North Division team. You got 2 games against the Val this week. there still feels like very little separation. I mean,
There's none.
So, I mean, how hard is it to build that separation or create it in this division?
Number one, you don't worry about it right now. It's way too early in the season still. You play the game in front of you. You play the day in front of you. You want to have a great practice Monday. Let's have a great practice tomorrow. And then let's worry about Wednesday and not worry about the standings. So I'm not a standings driven person. At the end of the day, that's how we're judged in this profession. But I'm a process driven person. So I want our team to have the right process. Play the right way, practice the right way, lift the right way, study video the right way, have great daily habits. Usually at the end, the standings will take care of themselves. And that's what I want our focus to be on.
So Yuri's start, everyone's talking about it, just, we see the talent and the talent, but what else is different? What's different? I guess this year, there's a lot of that have this.
Last year until the end of the season, last year in the first half of the season, it was all based on talent, and now it's based on talent mixed with competitiveness, habits, and detail to his game.
Does he realize, like a few weeks ago that lost to Syracuse, he scored a goal. I mean, you said he didn't play a goal. Does he realize that, if he doesn't score, if he scores a goal, that doesn't necessarily mean he played well? You know what I mean?
He has he's got very good self-assessment. He and I, usually once a week, every second week, we would talk or watch video or whatever it is, and he knows when he plays good and when he plays bad, and it's not based on points anymore. When you're younger, he's still a young player, and young players that are talented still, can get frustrated when they're not scoring because, that their whole life has been about producing, and that's the value they're bringing. But right now, he's doing a really good job of growing his game. Things I talk about with him and Isak, no different than I talked about with, Quinn Paterka and guys like that. If you get 50, 60 points in the NHL, that's a lot of points. Well, you're probably going to get those in about 40 games because you're going to have games you get multiple points, etc. And there's 42 other games. So if you are only helping your team win when you get points, over half of the season, you're not doing anything to help your team win. That's not sustainable. That's not the way to be a good hockey player or to stay or get to the NHL. And now they're growing their games, and Yuri specifically is growing his game to, last weekend, he helped us win games without being on the score sheet. And that's huge.
What did I get as an example? What did that mean?
Puck battles, back checking, finishing checks, penalty killing, things that he's doing now on a consistent game in, game out basis. There was a game last week. I can't remember which one it was. Not this past week, the week before that he had his AHL career high in puck battles, takeaways, and hits, all in the same game. And so he's just doing little things like that more and more and more. And because of that, he has the puck more. And then when he has the puck more, good things happen for him offensively. And we're seeing that on the score sheet as well.
Let's do Vinny's impact on him. We thought Vinny would have an impact. I guess what is it?
Well, I think Vinny, number one, Vinny's path is a path that all these guys are going through. Come over from Europe at a young age, don't know the language that much, and have to go through how hard the American Hockey League is and what a grind it is and how physically committed it is. And, so that shared experience, what Yuri is going through, Vinny lived and lived as his countrymen. And so they can talk about that in their native tongue and the ups and downs and what it took for Vinny to finally get there, because it was 3.5 years in the American Hockey League before he got there. What it took to finally get there, how to stay there, all of those things that I preach to him that he needs to put in his game. Well, Michael Pekka and Vinny live those things as players, and so they can be great role models for him.
As far as Isak goes, how much more equipped was he just for the grind of a long AHL season? He had never had that really until last year, for the 70, 80 plus.
Well, none of them have, right? So that's the adjustment to pro, right? The college kids don't. The Canadian junior is more similar, but not against men, you know. So Isak, again, like what the world sees is the game product. Behind the scenes, the work that those two young men have put in, shooting room, video, practice, stay on after practice, weight room, how much time they've put in with Nick Craven. All of our teenage players last year, our 4 teenage forwards, all gained lean muscle mass in season last year. That is like hard to do. And you only can do that by putting in a ton of time in the weight room, putting a lot of extra work in, going and seeing Nick Craven after games, lifting on game nights, things of that nature. And, that's all the behind the scenes that these guys have put in massive amounts of work in the last 13, 14 months to put themselves in position to be successful.
At the end of the game, can you tell that he's excited by earning something like that?
I think all players, not just all players, I think all people, like you like to be rewarded, acknowledged for the efforts and the work you're putting in. And who you play as a coach late in games, you play players you trust. You don't play players that are talented or just have talent. You play players you trust. Those are guys that go out there in big moments, offensively and defensively, late games, late periods, things of that nature. And trust is earned, right? And so he's earned that trust. And yeah, I'm sure he takes a lot of pride. And that's the beauty. I'll tell every offensive player I've coached, I always put the carrot of, you become a great defensive player, you get empty net goals. Like that, right? And Ovechkin just tied Gretzky for the most empty net goals. You could get 5, 6, 7 empty net goals a season if you're a great defensive player with being a good offensive player. So who doesn't want a free 5 goals added onto their goal total at the end of the season because the coach trusted them to be out there in that situation? And it's a luxury. A lot of times your offensive players, you don't want out in those situations. So it's a luxury as a coach to have a player like that, because when the puck goes on a player's stick like that, like when Rusek had that puck and him and Roseanne were going down the ice with pressure in an empty net situation, I knew the game was over. And sometimes there's plenty of players that can't finish that off, right? And shoots it wide or whatever that is. And so it's a luxury to trust Byro and Rusek and Roseanne and guys like that in those moments, to have them in those situations.
How much did you get to know? You had him for a long camp and then 2 games 2 years ago. I guess, what did you learn about him?
Well, I had knowledge of him because 2 guys that I'm good friends with in the coaching business had him. And won Calder Cups with him. John Cooper won a Calder Cup with Ticker, and so did Mike Vellucci. And those are 2 good friends of mine, guys I've talked to a lot about coaching in pro before I coached in pro. They just raved about what kind of winner Tokarski is. That it's all substance. It's not style. He's not the prettiest aesthetically looking goaltender, but he wins, and he wins everywhere. He won in midget. He won a national title in midget. Won a world junior for Canada. Won a national title in juniors. Won the American League twice. So he's a serial winner, and that matters as a goalie. A great night, off night, whatever, he finds ways to put you in position to win hockey games. And it's funny, like sometimes you spend a little bit of time, like you said, we spent, 4, 5, 6 weeks together maybe. But we've stayed in touch over the years. He's texted me on our playoff runs. I texted him when he got back to the NHL and last year in Pittsburgh. And, we had a good relationship then, and that continues now. And he's a goalie that You feel very good as a coach when he's in that very calm presence and he battles his tail off for his teammates.
What does that say about him? Like you say, he had a decorated career, and then in his late 20s, he was moving around a little bit. And he gets back, he wins another championship. 2 years ago was like his first full NHL season. The guys in their 30s usually don't get their first full NHL season. Like, what does that say about him, I guess? Maybe what you just said, but your words.
Well, I think he's a battler, he's a winner, and he believes in himself. And that's a lonely position at times. And self-belief, real self-belief is very important in that position, because you're back there alone. You don't have your teammates on the bench. Sometimes when you're struggling as a forward or D, you can come back and guys can pick you up on the bench and get you going. And as a goalie, you're back there alone a little bit. And so the volume of winning he's done in his career at really, really high levels with high pressure situations, I think it just creates a real internal belief that he's going to find a way to get it done. And whether it's in the NHL, American League, whatever it is, I fully know he still believes he could get it done in the NHL too. And when he gets opportunities to, he usually does. And that self-belief is earned through a lot of work and a lot of winning over a long period of time. Patrick?
Yeah, Seth, just a couple for me. I guess sort of along some of those lines, when you sit down with a player, some players think their game is great, right? And, they should be in the NHL, and there's really not a whole lot to work on. And then there's others that maybe really beat themselves up. How do you kind of balance both of those situations where, maybe you have to really lean on a player and kind of wake them up, and then on the other side, maybe you have to kind of pick a player up as well and point out some of the good parts of their game.
Say the last part again.
And point out some of the good parts in their game as well. Different players, different personalities.
Yeah, I think that is a massive piece of coaching. Is you need to understand your people as humans, and the better you can understand them as human, the better you can. I like to say that we need to meet our players where they're at mentally. Because to do that, you need to know where they're at mentally. Are they in a good spot? Are they in a bad spot? Are they being too hard on themselves right now? Do they think too highly of themselves right now? Because if I'm talking about one situation and they're way over there in terms of how they're evaluating, I'm not meeting them where they're at, and all we're going to get at that point is just butting heads. So I think it's really important to know your people and to meet them where they are mentally, and then always deal in honesty. That doesn't mean to be miserable to them. Doesn't mean you have to yell at them. But our players know that I'm always going to be honest with them, and because I'm always honest with them, good and bad, they can trust me that the information I'm giving them is coming from an honest place, and it's coming from a place that's trying to help them, and it's coming from a place of this is what I believe, and they know that, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat things or manipulate them in any way. That I'm giving them honest feedback, and that's earned over time.
And for you as a coach, and maybe in your conversations with other coaches, is this something that you and others have really had to key in on and build these skills, or is it something that comes kind of intuitively? Like, how have you, this side of the game has become so much more important the last, 10, 15 years. How have you tried to keep up with that?
I think that for me, that probably comes more naturally. Just a little bit who I am. I'm a teacher at heart. I like being with people. I enjoy conversations. I'm a people person. So I do think that side of it, I want to know my players. I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know, their family and what they're driven by and things like that. So those are things that I'm just probably naturally like to do. I've had to probably work harder at other things in coaching that aren't that haven't, I didn't play pro. I don't have as much experience as a player, things like that. So I've had to acquire some of those things through a lot of work and a lot of time. I think the personal side of things is something that is more natural to me.
And just last thing on that, I mean, at one point maybe you're coaching, somebody in their early 30s, and other times, like Kulik was 18, 19, Rosine, same thing. How do you kind of shift gears, quickly from one player to the next? Like, these players are just at completely different stages of life and personal and social development and everything that goes with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's something that I worried about. It's probably something that kept me out of pro hockey in my own mind, that I love the young players. I love working with them. I love helping develop them and the growth of them as humans and as players to help make their life better is something that has driven me to coaching. And I wondered if we'd be able to have the same impact on older players. And I've had a lot of friends that went pro before me as coach. And so, they've always told me that you can and you will. And that's been rewarding to see that, it's a different relationship with Isak or Yuri Kulik or those guys. It's, you're being pretty firm with them and hard on them, but you're still shoulder around them at times, but they need to learn what it's going to take, the habits, the work ethic, the competitiveness on a daily basis that they need to put into their life in order to become an NHL hockey player. With Michael Mersch or Ethan Prow, it's closer to friendship than it is coaching. The amount of time you spend together, they're your leaders, getting to know them as humans. And, it's something we take a lot of pride in here. Mersch just mentioned it today that, he thinks he's a better player and passer. We were doing drills today, more passing oriented practice than he was at any point ever in his career. And that's something that I take a lot of pride in, is that we practice in a way that makes our players better. And for some guys, the younger guys, that might mean an NHL future. For other guys like Michael Mersch or Ethan Prow, it's to stay in this league as long as they can and keep doing what they love and providing for their family, or having career highs in offensive numbers, late stages of their career, or whatever that is. So, those are things that we take a lot of pride in. But like I said, it's Mershey and Prowsey and Yopst and some of those older guys. We don't have a ton of older guys. We're pretty young. It's probably closer to friendship than it is coaching.
And just last thing for me, I hear other coaches mention this, players, with the cell phones and everything with that and the video games, like sometimes it's harder to get that team bonding than maybe it was in the past. You just even on a long bus ride. How do you try to foster some of that socializing, within the team and kind of let it grow organically?
I think that the best bonding is done without the coach there. That's just reality. I think that you try to help foster it, but I think the best way for me to foster it is how I treat them as humans, not just as hockey players, but also how I treat our staff. Our players can easily see over the last 3 years that I'm friends with our staff members, not just our coaching staff, support staff, the business side of the operations in Rochester. That I have friendships that mean a lot to me within our organization in Rochester. And I think when your coaching staff and your support staff is like that, they just starts to be what the expectation is in our organization and the culture. But most of that is without me, and most of that is then driven by Michael Mersch, Ethan Prow, and those guys. And that's why it's so valuable at who you put around your young players. Because I'm a firm believer, like, no hand-holding, kumbaya, hey, tell me, go in front of the team and tell me something about your family. None of that stuff brings a team together. I don't believe in any of that. I believe that you bring a team together by the bonding goes outside of being with the coaching staff, and you bring a team together by going through shared adversity together.
Thank you.
Thank you.